This is the Randy and Alana Rewow.
Joined at this time by Major Dan Rooney. He's an F-16 fighter pilot in the Oklahoma Air National Guard, and he's coming to the Treasure Valley to do something cool for kids of fallen servicemen and women, and he needs your help. But before we get to do that and how you can be a part of it, first of all, Major Dan, thank you so much for your service.
Oh, well, my pleasure. I would say thank my wife, because flying jets is pretty fun.
That's a great point. The families, they're serving right along with you, aren't they?
They really are. There is no doubt about it. And especially, those that we help through Folds of Honor. It's a family affair.
Tell us how you got involved with this idea. How did this happen? I mean, where'd it come from?
I think if you roll back the clock a little bit, for me, I've always believed in life that if you can combine what you do with who you are, I mean that's the ultimate goal for each of us. And I knew growing up I wanted to be a fighter pilot. I'm a passionate runner. And just trying every day to stay true to what's in my heart and soul. And certainly, if you go back before the Volition America race series was launched, I was on a commercial airline flight headed from Chicago here to Grand Rapids, Michigan. And unbeknownst to me, I was on it with identical twin brothers. Corporal Brad Buckland was bringing his brother, who was KIA Corporal Brock Buckland, home from Iraq. And that night I watched what I'd call the other side of war. I watched the Buckland family on the darkest night of their lives, and that inspired me to start a foundation called the Folds of Honor. And we'll have almost 10,000 scholarship recipients as of this year, and providing the opportunity to get an education to spouses and children of those killed or disabled in defense of our great nation. And from that point, I started, one of my fundraising platforms was running. I'm an avid runner. I'm an average runner, though. I call myself a jogger, right? Yeah. But I started running and just that community, that benevolent nature of runners. And so it's really been a natural evolution of me to kind of start or finish where I started with this. Hey, when you can combine your passions with who you are in your daily life, I think that's when you're being true to your essence. And so Volition America is born, and we're so excited. I think my goal is, before this is all said and done, have 1 million runners across America donating $13. And the 13 is the number of folds that bring the flag into its triangle shape, and happens to be my lucky number. I see it everywhere. Literally every day. And so that's the genesis of what led us to this point.
I'm curious, is the Buckland family aware of what's going on? Have you stayed in contact with them at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I have 5 daughters myself, but I have one son, and Jacob is 12 years old, and he was Brock's son. He was 4 years old that night. I saw him on the tarmac welcoming his dad home for the last time. And the Bucklands are very close to my family, and in some way, obviously, we can't undo what happened to their son or his dad. But when suffering has meaning and tragedy has meaning, I think it really helps the healing process. So they've certainly been advocates and huge supporters of Folds of Honor, and realizing that none of this ever starts had I not been on that plane and watched them on the darkest night of their life, which turned into a ray of hope for so many others.
Major Dan Rooney is hanging out with us this morning. He is an F-16 fighter pilot in the Oklahoma Air National Guard. That's not what makes him cool, though. What makes him cool is the fact that he is also the founder and passion behind Volition America's Boise Half Marathon and 5K, which is happening in March. And it is a fundraiser to provide scholarships for military families of those who've been killed or disabled while on active duty. And this is going to be the first time it's ever been done in the Treasure Valley, and we're hoping that you can be a part of it.
What does it mean to you when you're able to award these kids with scholarships?
I mean, at the end of the day, selfishly, it means fulfillment, right? Mm-hmm. And using the talents that God has given you to have a positive impact. I think that's all the accountability that we'll face when the lights go out. Each and every one of us, is we're given unique talents, and what did we do with those to make the world and the people around us better? And so from that point, from just the kind of myopic, hey, Major Dan Rooney side of it, but I think that the bigger picture is, as a country, there's 1% every day that wakes up to defend the other 99% of us. Mm-hmm. And to watch the evolution of our donors, our supporters who are on this mission, when they get to say thank you by honoring the sacrifice of one of our military members, by taking care of their legacy and providing an education. And I can speak as a fighter pilot. When you jump in the jet, the worst nightmare would be that I didn't come back and I leave Jackie and my 5 girls behind. But the one thing I would want to make certain of is that they were taken care of and had the opportunity to pursue the American dream, which we all know the foundation of that is an education.
Well, we'll definitely put up all the information on our website so people can link over and get registered and signed up, because I have a feeling a lot of people want to support this great cause. I think it's awesome. We're talking with Major Dan Rooney from Volition America about the big Folds of Honor Boise Half Marathon and 5K coming up in March. Tell us a little bit more about your background, Major. Was it Oklahoma? Is that where you grew up?
I'm an Okie, born and raised here, was all over the place in the military. I hang my hat here and then down at Tyndall Air Force Base, which is in the panhandle of Florida. So I'm pretty much a redneck through and through. And proud of my roots.
Your roots, that's what I wanted to ask you about. What are the roots in your family? Is there a tradition in your family of service, or are you the first one?
No, I'll tell you, my grandfather was a colonel in the Air Force, and inspired me. But when I was 12 years old, I call them moments of synchronicity in life. So that term synchronicity, I like to define it as chance with a purpose, right? The people that God places in your path. That's good. That hopefully guide you, the highway, the signs on the highway of life, if you will. But I met this guy, Steve Courtwright, when I was 12 years old playing in a golf tournament, and he was a fighter pilot, and I couldn't believe you could be grown up and be that cool. And so, he was my first man crush. And I became great friends with him, right? And I stayed in touch with him, and he really mentored me. And once I got in college, and I knew that I wanted to pursue that route of becoming a fighter pilot, because I wanted to be like this guy, Steve Courtwright. And so that was, my initial inspiration and my dream growing up. Obviously, I had no idea about how these dreams would ultimately kind of convalesce, if you will, to set me on a much different trajectory of service, and one that I think is having a tremendous impact on these families all across the country. And we've got several recipient families in the great state of Idaho there as well. And I've flown my F-16 through mountain homes. I'm very familiar with the area.
So it took you like 5 seconds to fly through Idaho in your F-16?
Well, I actually landed there, so I hung out there for a little bit. But yes, it would have taken me about 5 seconds. But, and I can't wait to come out for the race too. So I'm going to be there running and telling the story to everybody that comes out and is a part of the inaugural Volition America Half Marathon.
One of the things I love about that story you were telling about how you decided to become a fighter pilot is I read this somewhere on your website that our choices define our legacy. And it's not always necessarily huge, big choices we make. It's the little ones. Like I'm thinking about this man who inspired you to become a fighter pilot. He made little choices to answer your questions and to befriend you and stuff like that. And look what that has led to. It's led to this huge thing. I mean, you have no idea what our legacy is going to be, but it's those little choices we make every day that create it, isn't it?
Yeah, and a fantastic point. And that's the, Volition. The title of our races is defined as the power of choice. Mm-hmm. And, my heart, just hopes as fast forwards, 2, 3, 5, 10 years down the road that Volition becomes a household name. Because once you're armed with that power of Volition, and you realize the accountability of the choices, to your point, that you make every moment of every day, of every month, of every year, that ultimately define your legacy. And it's an unstoppable force in any human being when they can get to that place where they say, I will. And literally, nothing can stop us. So that is at the core of Volition. It's about making positive choices, not just to go run a race, but positive choices and inching toward becoming that person that ultimately you want to be in your heart and soul, that we all struggle with every day, right? That amazing paradox. It's the battle of you against you at the end of this race called life. But I couldn't agree with you more on that whole standpoint of our choices defining, at the end of the day, the legacy of our life.